Great panel here to discuss all this. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves quickly and your company and what role you play in the healthcare space with blockchain. We'll start with Ron.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Austring. I'm the chief scientist at EHR Data. Our company is providing a single source of truth for healthcare data on a public blockchain. We have two APIs. One of those is for and it's a data exchange, so we take data in and allow data to go out. So we call that data providing and data consuming, and we also have another API that works as a workflow engine. So we can integrate with healthcare providers to provide workflow services to them.
All right. Mohammed, you have many hats, so let's talk about the one with healthcare today.
All right, sure. My name is Mohammed Salman Anjum. I'm the managing director of part of the Veridat group, which is Aventus Tech. And the project which I will be sharing the experience about is the MEDSLOC, and that is about the COVID management system on blockchain. And that is what I'll be sharing, what was the experience about, what made us do that, and what's ahead in that. So we'll have a complete visibility about what blockchain can do in the healthcare vertical.
Okay. Phil.
Hi, my name is Phillip Runyan. I am the a co-founder and the managing director of Veridat. Basically, Veridat holds the pharmacy industry accountable through our SaaS platform that we call Bench. Bench makes it effortless to be able to capture critical time-dependent information to the Bitcoin SV blockchain. From preclinical trials through production, even distribution, Veridat verifies the occurrences of these events and the veracity of data in which they create every step of the way.
Okay. All right, and Dr. Ruchi Dana.
Hi, so I'm Dr. Ruchi Dana. I'm a medical doctor and a Stanford MBA, and I am, we're based in Dubai. We have a family office through which we make investments. And since we're a family of doctors and we also have a hospital and a nursing college back in India, so we make a lot of direct investments in healthcare, and we have made some investments in blockchain, and I see there's a huge potential for blockchain in healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mohammed, let's start with MEDSLOC. You've mentioned it briefly. Why don't you tell us about how you are working on the first blockchain-powered COVID management system and why you think blockchain is bringing value to COVID management?
Yeah, I'll start with what COVID is basically a problem of 2019 and 20. And I think the right thing to do is to solve this problem of 2020 with the technology of 2020. Web apps, legacy databases is a technology of like 10, 20, 30 years back. So we have the contemporary technology. We've been doing POCs. We started as a learning curve with the POCs and pilots for the governments, different verticals in the last 2-3 years. Now in 2020, I think the technology is mature enough and we can come up with the production grade solution. And what else? COVID is the current challenge to the whole world. Just the frontline people of healthcare cannot solve it on their own. They need the aid, and that aid can come up from the technologies. And I'm not just propagating about blockchain only. AI, IoT is equally important. And part of our tool is also having the AI feature as well. So that's our belief. When we started, we were visualizing, okay, we have a situation, a challenge here in the world, how blockchain can fit in. So that's how we came up with this COVID management system, having 12 different applications, offering different functionalities, starting from the healthcare data to the tracking, and we all know that part. And then right now, which I'll be talking more about, is the vaccination management system, which is also part of the MEDSLOC. So MEDSLOC Wiki, which is one of the application. So we designed it not just for the one stage of pandemic or COVID. So we went through with the whole design thinking thing, and then we came up that there should be a functionality or application for all the stages of the COVID management system. So blockchain, we all know that it provides the data integrity, but beyond data integrity, now was the time to acquire the data from different sources, share it with the ecosystem, and secure, because the nature of the data is private. It is like citizens' data, it is healthcare data, and nothing else is better than blockchain to do that. So that was basically the trigger.
Great. Ron, let's go from talking about the current pandemic to the opioid addiction crisis, which is afflicting certainly the United States and many other countries. Can you tell us how your company is trying to improve the situation with opioid addiction using blockchain technology?
Certainly. So what we're doing, we believe that the patient owns their own healthcare data. And we're taking all the healthcare data silos that exist in the United States, and we're combining that into a single silo. And in doing that, what that allows us to do is to track all medical services across all those different industries. So as an example, when a patient goes to a pharmacy and fills a prescription for an opioid drug, we capture that under their, what we call a GPR, their global patient record. And that gets stored in a secure, encrypted format. And we also write that data, the hash of that data, to a public blockchain and also to an archival node. So that data can never be destroyed or tampered with. In doing so, what happens is when a patient on an opioid drug, typically what they do is they may prescription shop. And what that means is they may go to other pharmacies to get prescriptions filled. And so we can detect that with our system because we know, the previous pharmacy that they went to. And in doing so, what we do is when they fill that prescription at the other pharmacy, what we do is we run that data through what we call an MME edit, which is a morphine milligram equivalent edit. And it tells us basically the equivalency of morphine in their bloodstream. So we can tell at certain thresholds of, if they get their first time, actually, when they first take an opioid, what we'll do is we'll send them patient education via a mobile app in the form of an insight. And what that does is they can watch a video to the introductory of opioids so they can see, how dangerous this drug can be. So that's like an introductory one. As they take more and more opioids, they may pass certain thresholds. And those thresholds can be quite dangerous for the patient, right? So they're creeping up in the levels that they have in their bloodstream. So we will send them insights at different times during that process.
Got it. Interesting. Very, very fascinating. Dr. Ruchi, so tell us about the company that you've invested in with respect to use of blockchain and genetic data.
Yeah, so this was an investment that we made a couple of years back, and we were really fascinated about the investment. It was a young founder. The company is based in the UK, and what they were trying to do is put the genetic data on a marketplace and have the individuals own their data. So we know that the future is that genome testing would be there for almost everybody, and the prices are reducing day by day. But till now, it's so expensive that it becomes very difficult for the consumers to go for their own human genome testing. So what the startup did was they would actually incentivize the customers to share their data with pharmacies or scientists or clinical research organizations, and the customers actually have full authority to share the data with whoever they want to. So the data is really private. It's for the customers themselves, but if they choose to share it with somebody, then they can do that. And they get incentivized, and they get some incentives in the form of app discounts and other small things, not really big, but we thought that this was the future of genetic marketplace because there's a huge need for genetic data. There are a lot of pharmacy companies that are actually looking for data, and it's really serving a greater purpose because there are so many rare genetic disorders and disorders in which just having the kind of patient history and the genetic data together and maybe even the microbiome data together, it gives a holistic picture of a person, and that helps a lot to even save lives later on.
Fantastic. Phil, why don't you go into a little more detail practically of how your company's platform works with pharmaceutical drug companies with their clinical research data, and why you think having that data on a public blockchain such as Bitcoin SV improves the confidence in drugs that are developed.
Sure. So the issue at hand really is data integrity. As a manufacturer, do I have all of the data unadulterated from multiple silos through contract research organizations and whomever they may work with? Do I have a full view to be able to make smart decisions to either advance the drug development or to pump the brakes on it? As a regulatory body, do I have all of the information from the manufacturer? Is it accurate? Is it whole? These things are all incredibly important, and our service solves for both of these concerns and quite a bit more. Basically, our API, when integrated, just works effortlessly in the background. You don't have to do anything with it. It captures the information as it occurs in real time. It hashes the information to the Bitcoin SV blockchain, and from there, that hash obviously will then create a timestamp, verifying that this particular event occurred on this day and at this time. Any data that is created from that, again, is hashed. We can verify these things against our own hash generators. So if somebody were to say we created a document, they can check that document against, again, our own hash generator to be sure, that they are getting the information that they're supposed to get. Regulators can be sure that, without requiring trust, that the information received from Veridat, as it should match what the manufacturer has provided, is 100%. And there's no requirement of saying, okay, well, I'll just, you said it is, so I guess it is.
So tell us about what happened in news in China just yesterday that might illustrate in a real life way why this is important.
Sure. So just yesterday, the New York Times came out with a piece about the vaccine, the vaccine king in China who has repeatedly been popped for bribing officials to get his vaccines and other drugs and pharmaceuticals approved. They are teaming up, this pharmaceutical company is teaming up with AstraZeneca, and AstraZeneca has said that they're going to be thoroughly vetting any claims of data that has been created or occurred. That's just one of a constant slew of scandals that placate an industry where data can be just kind of fabricated out of thin air. Trust is paramount, and there's a lot of times it's extended without asking for much in return.
Yeah, and so blockchain technology can help create more trust in the drugs that are released and approved in the marketplace to help at least curb down the instances of fabrication and fraud. Mohammed, let's go back to you. Let's talk a bit more about MedsLock and some of the different functionalities. In particular, I want to know about the vaccination management application that you're developing.
Right, gladly that today is the sort of a V-Day because Britain has started their mass vaccination campaign today, and also even in Abu Dhabi, they have asked for 500 volunteers for another vaccination. They want to do a test trial. So yes, we are now in the phase of vaccination, and the time is for the vaccination management system. Why? Because of the two major reasons. One, of course, it's going to be the largest supply chain operation in the world. And how? Because about 7 billion people will be vaccinated in the coming time period. That has never been done before. And of course, the timeline has to be very much accurate as well. Like we don't have years for like a polio vaccination can be done on a number of years. Here it is a span of like maybe 6 months or 1 year you need to do this operation. So one, the management system is required to plan, procure, prioritize, distribution and all that kind of operations relevant to this mass campaign. The second important thing is what we are dealing with is vaccination. And I just mentioned that you cannot deal with any kind of raw information or wrong information with this product now. And there will be plenty, like the dot-com bubble, like the ICO kind of a thing. Plenty will come forward and say they have the vaccination. They will come up for a quick money and do a lot of like fake things. So if you don't have a trust layer with this mass campaign, the whole chain of custody is not on blockchain and there is no visibility. Such things will keep on, such news will keep on coming, and there will be more in coming time. So for these two reasons, we believe that the vaccination management system on blockchain is very heavily required. There are, again, if we don't do it right, the vaccination campaign, we will have another 2020. So we all don't want that to happen. And that is our main reason to come up with the MedsLock Y key, that it will bring all the ecosystem from the manufacturer to the receiver of that vaccine the whole chain of custody and administration will be on one single platform. Visibility will be there, trackability will be there, monitoring will be there, communication will be there. So this is all a very, again, classic use case of a production-grade blockchain solution. So this is, we are bringing in, and that's, I think, very much required for all the government authorities because they are going to be doing it in the coming months now.
Ron, we've talked a lot about the power of data. How do you think your company's solution, which is trying to create a global electronic health record system, right, moving patient records to be accessible through the blockchain, how do you think that will lead to better healthcare decisions by patients, providers, and more importantly, by public health authorities?
Well, being a single source of truth and all of the all of the patient's healthcare data being in one place, what we're going to be able to offer is that this will be a global solution. That's why we call it a GPR, Global Patient Record. And when we integrate with a provider that's providing healthcare data, whether that's a pharmacy, a doctor, a prescriber, a lab, a radiologist, or whatever, we go through an authentication process, and it's very similar to like a KYC process. So all of the providers are authenticated, and when they submit data to us, we actually attach their provider ID to that data. So down to a field level in our database, we can track information. So what that does is, as a person moves throughout the world, or and may have healthcare data or healthcare status services performed somewhere else in the world, I could actually have a prescription filled in the United States or Canada or whatever, and I could go to Great Britain and go into a pharmacy there, and when they fill that prescription, that new prescription is going to be checked against my drug profile, so that if that drug happens to interact with the drug I took in the States, the patient or the pharmacist will get a warning for that, and they'll be able to look into it further. But the beauty of this system is that our global workflow platform will allow pharmacies to also connect into our edits, which will provide further services. So we actually just funded a university in Texas, which is going to be doing we gave them a grant to do some work on genomic research for us. And what that research is going to do is it's going to allow us to determine if the patient can actually metabolize a drug that they're about to take. So some patients either are slow to metabolize, or they are very fast to metabolize certain drugs. So knowing this, you can monitor or change the dosage of the drug, and that in itself leads to better outcomes on the service. So I think the key here is that we're a centralized database, and that opens up all kinds of opportunities for us.
Okay. Dr. Ruchi, in your travels and work around the world, you've probably run into many other companies in the healthcare and blockchain space. What are some of the other use cases of blockchain technology in healthcare that you find really powerful and that you would support?
Sure. So there's this recent company that we invested into, and I'm also an advisor. So it's based on advanced therapies. So that's the next new thing that's coming up in healthcare, precision medicine and advanced therapy. So what that company does is that it has a cell orchestration platform, because what happens in precision medicine is it's very, very difficult to scale these production capabilities, and it's very, very expensive at the same time. So like if you don't have trust in the source of data and how the entire chain works, then it becomes really difficult, and you cannot actually afford to make a mistake in those cases. So this is a blockchain-based platform in which like it integrates like the clinical research organizations, hospitals, labs, and then finally the patients as well, and it actually helps to minimize the chances of error. So that's one interesting concept that I came across recently. It's a very recent investment that we made. Apart from that, like as Ron was mentioning, digital health record, I think there's a huge, huge potential in that aspect, because like even if you talk about COVID-19 vaccine or any of the immunization things that are happening, like for example, I myself don't remember when was my last tetanus shot, right? And this sort of information is so critical that individuals should have this information for themselves. So digital health record for the patients, I think there's a huge potential in that, because like as we go in the near future, there is a critical need for this because people travel quite a lot. You need access to that medical records at all times. But like the only risk that was there till now was that the data wasn't secure. So I think like with the help of blockchain that can be minimized. Similarly for COVID-19 vaccine, there has to be like one shot given, and then within 3 to 4 weeks, there's a second shot to be given. And people cannot just carry that piece of paper and like if, for example, if you go to CVS or you go to Walgreens, the other person doesn't have the record of did you even get the first shot. So things like these are things that can be avoided with the help of digital health records. So I think like blockchain is doing, like giving people the authority to actually own their own data. I think that's something that's very, very powerful. A couple of more things that we saw in blockchain was drug counterfeit. That's a big thing because specifically with generic drugs or even with branded drugs, because if you don't know like the expiration date of drugs or like the origin of these drugs, and like drug counterfeit is a very, very big thing, especially in emerging countries. So that's one application that we researched quite a lot, but we didn't end up making an investment. And similar to that is organ donation, because like for that again, like if you actually get to know the source of the organ, it makes a huge change in like how like the entire workflow works in hospitals. And coming to hospitals, there are some good applications in terms of like smart contracts and controlling the entire hospital data and the workflows itself. But we haven't yet made any investment in the hospital space, you know.
Mohammed, you had a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Dana. Just to like taking from your point that you asked about the functionalities of Matchlock Waiki. There is one major functionality, and which is the giving the credentials to those who got vaccinated. Like you need to track the results as well, and at the same time, if I got vaccinated, I shouldn't be taking my paper and for a travel reason or going back to the work reason. There has to be an app which carries all of my record of if I was in previous history, I was tested for as a positive or negative, then with the vaccination, what was the result, when was it done, and if I'm like having now antibodies or not, etc. So yeah, this is again a very important functionality.
Yeah, blockchain would be great for essentially a vaccination passport, you know, certification.
Yes,
You're
yes.
certified to travel. Right? All right, Phil, let's go to you. So can you just recently gave a presentation about your company's solution to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, the agency in the United States which approves, you know, pharmaceutical drugs. What was the reaction to your use of blockchain technology, and how do you think a solution like yours can help government agencies like them make better decisions about drug approval?
Sure. Call me biased, but I'd say it went really well. You know, it had come to our attention during the call that the FDA is not new to blockchain technology. In fact, they've dabbled in it already from a private blockchain and really more as a file server. So to say that there was this kind of aha moment when they saw our backend, they saw our reporting, and they realized, oh, we can verify data that occurred during the manufacturing process or during clinical trials, to be able to easily authenticate that data by having, you know, one-click options to view on-chain, like, oh my gosh, this hash is right here in the op return. You can view these things. You don't need to be a blockchain genius. You don't need to understand miners. We made it so simple for them to be granted access from a pharmaceutical manufacturer, to get in there, to have access to the exact information that they need to sort.
Because it's not in their private database, it's available
Exactly,
on-chain.
yes, exactly, and on BSV, to be able to search, sort, and filter through to find exactly what it is that they need within minutes, instead of sorting through massive piles of paperwork. They were very receptive to it. They've invited us to several other working groups, both within and outside of the FDA, and I'm confident that they'll want to continue to move this conversation forward in how, you know, we can be better stewards in this space to make their lives easier.
Okay, final word from each of our panelists. We'll start with Mohammed. What's the next stage for your MedsLock project, and why do you think investors and other businesses should support it?
Yeah, blockchain is a team game, and so is the case at the COVID. It can't be like handled by one vertical or one company. So we need partners. We need implementation partners in different countries, different regions, and especially the government authorities, because they will be the primary beneficiary. They will be using it for their own management of their mass campaigns, and of course, any kind of tech partners who help us to take it further from this point where we have reached till now. So yes, we need more partners to counter the COVID together.
Ron, same question. What's next for EHR data in its development, and why do you think investors and other businesses should support it?
The next step for us is, along with the COVID crisis, what we're doing there is we're going to be working with the largest vendor in the United States that has put together the largest database for vaccinations. Now, these are all types of vaccinations. They're going to be adding the COVID vaccination to that, and also they're also integrated with all the pharmacies and the labs that already do those testing. So immediately when a vaccine is ready, it's going to be available into their database, and they're going to be putting that onto our service. The other thing that we're working towards is we are working with the opioid crisis. There was most of the responsibility for that seemed to come down to the drug wholesalers. So the drug wholesalers have been fined huge fines in the United States, and they have to come up with a solution to track the supply chain right from the manufacturer through them right to the patient. So that's one of the other things we're talking with some of the major wholesalers on that. And we're hoping to put together a package on that as well. So, I mean, I think that's going to, once that is actually done, that opens up us to all the prescriptions in the United States. So currently right now there's about 4.2 billion transactions of prescriptions filled in the United States. With every one of those transactions with, different things we're going to do with smart contracts and edits like, MME edits and the genome metabolization edit, stuff like that, it's going to generate at least 10 to 15 more transactions for every prescription that's filled. So this is, that piece alone will be huge for us.
That's why you need a scaled blockchain like Bitcoin SV, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So.
All right, Phil, same question for you. What's next for Veridat, and why should investors and businesses support you?
Sure. So we're not just an idea. We are actually live right now. We have a running prototype with a top-tier pharmaceutical company who has been in the news as one of these vaccine manufacturers. We are in search of growth capital right now because we know once we move past this proof of concept, they are integrating us for scale, meaning that we're not just going to be looking at small transactional amounts. We're looking at tens of millions of transactions monthly. We need to build out our team, and we are in search of capital to be able to do that, because we know that once we are allowed to say exactly who it is that we're working with, we're confident it's going to gain some attention.
And Dr. Ruchi, we'll close with you. What are the types of projects and ventures you're looking to support or work with?
Sure. So I saw some interesting ventures here itself, and I think there's a huge potential. I'm particularly looking at the digital health passport for the consumers. I think that's a huge opportunity, and there have been some companies working on that, but having that part of blockchain together with it actually gives them the kind of security that's necessary. So I think that tied up with the immunization records and all, it would be a huge that's actually the way forward for healthcare. I think consumers should be the owners of the data. Yeah.
Fantastic. I hope after today's presentations you have a better idea of why we believe so strongly in blockchain's ability to take data, fuse it with monetary and other value, and create wonderful business uses that we think will make healthcare in the entire world better. Thank you very much for your time.